It's your destiny to greatness with Dr. C and Brothers Keeper. Today, where we've been, where we're going, and Friday trivia. And now, here are Dr. C and Brothers Keeper.
Hi, Dr. C here with
Brothers Keeper.
Yes, and we're so glad to be in your presence again today. Today's topic, ladies and gentlemen, is about thinking out of the box. Sometimes we'll say outside the box, but thinking out of the box.
Yes, and I was reading the other day, and they say in Australia they're thinking outside the square.
Yeah. I saw that as well.
Yeah.
So, Brothers Keeper, in reference to thinking out of the box, sometimes that's discouraged. But I think we have to keep it into perspective of what we're actually talking about. When you're thinking outside the box, you're thinking differently or considering another viewpoint, a different way of seeing things.
Yeah, a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we'll get caught up with just the same old thinking, and sometimes we get the same old thinking, you'll get the same old answers.
Right.
When there is actually a better answer somewhere, but until we change our perspective on how we're viewing the situation, we won't come up with a new answer.
Yeah, well, pretty much what they tell us. If we continue to beat that same old horse, then we're going to get the same results. So, thinking outside of the box. Just a moment or so, I want you to take a moment to think about where you're at, what you're thinking about. Are there things that you desire to do, but you're a little scared because it seems like the way to get there is a little different from other people? I don't know. When we come back, we're going to go a little bit deeper into this subject, outside the box. So we're talking about thinking out of the box or outside of the box. And for us to even talk about that, we need to acknowledge that we have thoughts, we have dreams and aspirations and a plan that has been set for our lives by God, but sometimes we're hesitant to move forward in that plan.
I'm thinking sometimes our pride will get in the midst, and sometimes we'll think that our thinking is just as high as his, when in reality it's so much higher than ours. But
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about us and our pride. I'm thinking about sometimes we don't stretch out and do things if it's different from the crowd. I mean, it could be holistically in reference to in the church. And if our church, if we're thinking that we're going to go out and we're going to meet the people at their needs and speak to them on the street corners, wherever they're at, but we may be a little hesitant because the neighboring church, that's not what they're doing. Or they're telling us, you're too crazy, it's dangerous out there, you shouldn't be doing that. That's kind of where I was thinking in reference to being hesitant from doing the things that we should do.
okay. That's a valid point. And that happens often. I mean, even with me, it's a lot of things that I could do. And as you say, that I don't think outside that box and stay where it's comfortable.
Right. Because there's comfort
Yeah.
in that box. There really is. And even if we know that we've been charged or we've been commissioned to do a certain thing, a lot of times we'll look to the left or to the right, and sometimes we may perceive that someone is saying something negative, and often they really are telling us that we're crazy or you can't do it that way, your idea is not going to work. Thinking about you and the logos and everything that you put on your hats. You've been doing that for a while now, but I can just imagine that you've had different voices of adversity to come up against you.
You're exactly right. And I have to work through it and understand that if I stay connected to God and listen to what He has to say,
Right.
and not worry about what sometimes I think that
Yeah.
they're saying,
Yeah.
and not be saying it, but because, as you said before, how we become tuned to doing things a certain way,
Yes.
and we think that way and be counterproductive, and it's no one else's fault but our own.
Well, ultimately, it is, because even when you were first alluding to in reference to our pride, if that might be the case, but ultimately, we're not the ones that is in control. God is the one that's in control. He knows and He sees what it is that we're capable of doing.
Yes.
So that just brought me to Proverbs 5 and 6, where it says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy paths. He will do it. Won't He?
Won't He do it?
Yes, He will definitely do it. And Brother's Keeper, when we're trusting God for the direction and for the plan for our lives, He will take us to some situations where we won't believe we can do it. And that's not trusting fully and completely.
Dr. C, it's funny you mentioned that, because you know I send out inspirational texts in the morning as well.
Yes.
And I've had situations where He had to pull me outside the realm of my understanding. He already understands what I can do.
Right.
But it was me putting limitations on myself. And I have questioned things that I should be doing.
Right.
And this little voice would come like, so you questioning me again, huh? Yeah, okay. And I follow His lead.
Right.
And then later on, I could go back and look at that text a few days later and go, wow. And I don't remember even formulating it the way He told me to do it.
That's beautiful.
And once I read it the next time, I just have to tell Him, God, you're so awesome.
And that's how it works when we allow ourselves to trust Him. You said something that, you used the word limitations. Many times we limit what God can do for us. Not that He can't do it, but we limit Him
Yes.
because we just want to stay so strict in this box of fear, or
Yes.
sometimes this situation we're saying, well, it's not like my brother or sister or my friend does it. It's not how they're encouraging me or telling me that it should be done. But what is God saying? What is God saying about you and what it is that He wants you to do? We have to be willing to tear those walls down around us and in that box, so that we can allow God to work freely within us and through us.
Yes, Dr. C, and they say we are many members of the same body. And as you were talking about earlier, how different people do things differently, but we're all parts of the same whole.
Right.
And until all of us play our part, it cannot get connected and go the way it should go. And sometimes what do you say, we're only as strong as our weakest link. And sometimes if that one person doesn't be where they're supposed to be, it can have a negative effect on the whole thing. You know what I mean?
I do. I really do. Ladies and gentlemen, even if your situation or circumstance or job is maybe similar to mine, it doesn't mean that God is going to take us all on the same direction or in the same direction or on the same path. So hold your head up. Sometimes we just need to be encouraged that we know what we're doing through Christ. And even if it's a little bit different, it's great. And when we finish, it's going to be beautiful. Maybe if you just think about Joseph in the Bible, when his brothers, because they were afraid of what he was going to become, they sold him into slavery, but he began to trust God even the more. And once he did that, in those difficult situations, when he looked back, like Brothers Keeper did, he knew that everything was well because he had followed God.
And as you were talking about his situation with his brothers, and he had to be thinking outside the box when he even mentioned things to them that they'd never heard before.
Yeah.
And stood in the adversity and stood his ground and understood that by him thinking outside the box that these thoughts were coming from God, that he's going to trust these thoughts.
Yeah. So we're trusting that you're going to trust in God's plan for your life. Hold on. Hold your head up and get busy for God. His plan is the right plan. We'll be right back.
Okay, we're back. And it's time for the Friday trivia question.
Yes, Friday trivia.
And we're going to talk about some events that went on in the Bible. And excuse me if I go country on you, but sometimes our verbiage don't come out like we think, and some of the words that we used to use, but now we've understood that enunciating words like that just ain't going to get us very far. But my question today is it's concerning David and Goliath. David came in the situation and he looked outside the box, knowing that Goliath was a big man and he was a young boy. So he had to use an unconventional way to be able to defeat this man. So my question is, what did David use to defeat Goliath? And I'm going to tell you what he used. He hit him in the head. And he killed him dead. He was dead.
Just like he used a can of rain.
Yeah, he killed him dead. So my question is, what did David use to slay Goliath?
Okay. What did David use to slay Goliath?
Yeah, he slayed him by hitting him in his head.
And he killed him dead.
He killed him dead.
Okay.
Stone dead. He was stone dead. Right in the head.
Okay. Yes, he was definitely outside of the box.
Yes.
And it worked.
Yes.
He was more successful than what he would have been if he had tried to use that conventional way.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, come on, join in with us. Help us out here. Send us the answer to that question, and you can get it in by tonight, by 11:59 p.m. Yes, definitely. And you know the deal. Email them to us at your.destinytogreatness@gmail.com. I think that's it. Have wealth in me. Have wealth in me.
And I have a tip for today. Many times we wonder why we're stuck in a rut. We can't seem to get any further. Physically, emotionally, all upset and don't know, topsy-turvy, can't figure it out. Well, maybe it's time to do just a little gardening. By saying that, I mean pull some weeds out of our lives. Those weeds of negativity. Just like we pull the weeds out of the garden so everything else can grow. Well, our positive aspects of our lives can't grow as long as they're stunted by those negative weeds. So my tip today is think about some things that are running through your mind that may be negative, have a negative tilt to it, or maybe someone you need to forgive for something they have done to you. Let's try to forgive them. We're not forgiving them for them, we're forgiving them for us, so we can move on. So start plucking some seeds. Plant some seeds of positive thoughts and pluck the negative weeds out of our lives. It's just me thinking again. How often do we get caught off guard by the enemy? We get so caught off guard that it seemingly feel like they've knocked us down to the ground. But just know, we still have power. So rise above it, shake it off, gird up your loins, keep it moving. Because we are never going to be the victim of their advances. We are the victors. So in this life, as long as we're walking with God, we are already promised to be victorious. So shake it off. Stand up. Be puffed up in God. And let them know that we're still here. And all the tricks that they have is not going to work. We are victorious. This is Brother's Keeper. It's just me thinking again.
We are destined for greatness.
It's good for us to keep the spirit and work ethic of Noah. Even in the midst of our discouragement, when we know that we're on the right path and we're doing the right thing, we just have to do that thing. Noah kept on building that ark in a time when there wasn't even any rain, but he trusted and he believed. You believe God as you walk towards your destiny.
We are destined for greatness.